You're live. All right, switch over to announcements.
Jacob, when I was doing that, I was choosing that first window.
Mm-hmm.
Remember there were like 3 different.
I think we're good to go. Okay, well, thank you guys all for coming out. So if you've never been before, this is devICT. Today's September 25th, 2014. So tell you a little bit about us. devICT is a program that's ran by Make ICT members, technically. You should check out Make ICT, makeict.org, the Wichita's premier maker group. We are a community for developers and designers. Our mission is to educate, empower, and connect software developers in the Wichita area and as far out as North Carolina. Great ways you can be involved in devICT. The #1 absolute bestest way is to chat on IRC. We're on Freenode on pound devICT, Octothorpe. You can, if you don't have an IRC client installed on your machine, or if you don't want to install one, you can get on our website, devict.org, and /IRC. There's a web embedded client. Also on that website, you can watch past presentations. We record every one of these that we do, and we put them out on YouTube, so they're available. And once every so often, we'll actually post a code challenge you can participate in. Another way to be involved is to donate. Membership in the organization is free. Donations are appreciated, but we'll never require them. We do have some monthly costs of about $100 for hosting the meetup groups, hosting sites like devict.org, and then the membership that allows us to use this space here at the Labor Party. There is a PayPal donate button on devict.org. Third best way to be involved is to give a talk. It's a great way to learn about something that you're interested in. If you know a good amount about something, and you're interested and passionate about it, and you want to tell people about it, committing to giving a talk is a great way to learning a lot about it, because then you have to do a bunch of research. Any topic that's related to development or web design is appropriate, or any kind of design, not just web. And it's also great practice if you ever have any aspirations of presenting at a conference, or or regional user groups or anything like that. There's a jobs board at jobs.devict.org where people will post job openings. You can go check out job openings. Upcoming events. So our friends at Women Who Code, I like to plug whatever they're doing next. So next thing on their calendar, they're having a panel event. It's gonna be a Q&A session with like 3 to 5 local industry leaders. That's Wednesday, October 15th at Baseline Creative. There is, Seth, I believe, still room in the car for Thunder Plains? Maybe? I don't know. Probably, if you're interested. This is a one-day conference down in Oklahoma City. One-day conferences are great because you don't have to get a hotel. You can go, spend the day, check it out, drive back, get home late at night. This conference is October 9th, and it's based on HTML, JavaScript, APIs, mobile development, CSS. Should be a lot of good stuff. We have a tradition that so devICT is always the last Thursday of every month, and the day after our meeting, we have developer lunch, we call it. So tomorrow we'll be meeting at Wichita Brewing Company, which is at 13th and Tyler, and you'll be there about 11:30 a.m. If you show up late, that's fine too. There's a group that meets here every week, every Thursday at 7 a.m. We call it Code and Coffee. Just come hang out, work on something, don't work on something, just shoot the shit, whatever. And that's just right here every Thursday. Next month, instead of doing another talk, because devICT is going to be the day before Halloween, we're going to just be having a Halloween mixer. So come, drink, socialize, bring your own beer, snacks, whatever. Somebody will probably have beer to share or not.
Well, we were supposed to drink and socialize every month anyway.
Well, a lot of people like that. If you want to bring a laptop and have just open hack night, that's great. If you just want to come and hang out, that's cool too. If you have a great costume, bring it, put it on. Costume's not required. So tonight we have a double feature. The Honorable Jim Rice will be going first, talking about accessibility. And then new member Matt Young will be talking about IPython notebooks. He's coming out of the gate strong, presenting on his first meeting. Really impressed with that. So Jim, I will now let you take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Rice, and I just finished this presentation slides as people were walking in, and I thought long and hard all day about what is a baby springboard. Is it a tiny springboard for regular people that doesn't get them very far, but it gets them in the right direction? Or is it a springboard for babies, maybe? Or is it a baby being used as a springboard? You decide. You're right. Okay. So, who am I? Who I am? I am Jim Rice. I'm a developer, depending on who you ask, at NetApp. Just started in June. How I got roped into doing a talk over a topic over which I have slightly more than zero experience in. It's a long story. Basically, the first bug I got just to kind of test out if my development environment was working. We were developing a web application at NetApp, and I'm kind of learning the ropes. And the first bug was like, oh, this should be easy. It's a simple screen reader bug. So just play with that. And after much Googling and talking and finding out that some people don't even think about accessibility, as I had not, and lamenting on Twitter a little bit, Seth and Kenton called me out and said, you need to make a talk on that. And well, here we are, which I'm excited to do, by the way. Okay, don't get the wrong idea. Who I pinged to get my info. A lot of people helped and put up with me, but I did have three people that stood out. Dominic Canare, he runs Greenlight Go. He is not Sue Warcup. That is me breaking my markdown spacing so that my slides got broken. But yeah, Dom on Greenlight Go, he's one of the big guys at Make ICT. Sue Warcup, NetApp UX designer, and she actually serendipitously did a presentation at work over accessibility. She had pointed me towards a lot of good resources. And Shireen Roberts, family of mine, when she was volunteering at a hospital, ended up contracting an illness that affected her. She was deaf for years through her, I think, 30s, and has since received an implant. So she has some hearing restored, but there's still a lot of that doesn't get you 100%. So there are a lot of ways we can accommodate low hearing users that even if they have 80% of their hearing, it goes a long way. So she pointed me towards a lot of good resources as well. And where to go to get my notes, et cetera, et cetera. I have linked there the GitHub repository, to which I still need to push. So don't go poking around there right now, because it does not match what I'm talking to here. Here's the plan for what we're going to cover, which is hilarious because I'm totally going to get lost. General statistics over accessibility. Reasons to develop your products for greater accessibility, tools used by computer users such as ourselves, but don't have the same level of vision, hearing, and in some case color blindness. Screen reader demos. I'm going to demo NVDA, which is not made by NVIDIA. It's an open source screen reader. Gaining in popularity. JAWS is another one that we will be demoing. It was the de facto standard for a long time, and yeah, we'll get more to that. I've got a YouTube video. Yes, I am going to have us watch a YouTube video, not in its entirety, but just one of my more favorite parts to test the auto captioning. You cannot stop me from doing this ever. Got a Chrome plugin that sort of simulates color blindness. It's selective on what it actually changes color on, but it was kind of cool. And then we'll go over what can we do to accommodate people with accessibility needs in their computing endeavors. And I did not include the wave of links, and I may or may not include explosions. It depends on if someone tries to stop me from demoing the auto captioning. Accessibility stats, as it goes with all statistics. Statistics are estimated usually with a sample size of a population and then extrapolated. So when you're doing worldwide percentages of low to no vision users, obviously they did not survey in every country even, I imagine. So that's how statistics work. Disclaimer. 285 million people worldwide estimated to be visually impaired. 39 million are blind, like no vision, and 246 million have low vision. So it could be in one eye, both eyes. Well, to a certain degree, if your prescription is too strong, you may be quote unquote legally blind. Extremely common in low-income settings across the world, and locally 6.6 Americans are blind or have low vision. Regarding hearing, 5% of the population with disabling hearing loss. That comes to a count of 360 million. And I mentioned the implant that my family member had, which allowed her to regain some of her hearing. I mean, those are extremely rare cases, in a worldwide scope. And again, only gets you part of the way back. Now, this was what I found for color blindness. As far as stats, when I realized that I had not found something specifically for color blindness, but I got to an empty section of my slides. So that's why I stuck with the stat for Northern European ancestry. But 8% of men, statistically greater occurrence in males, but still, somewhat common. Why develop with accessibility in mind? There are some good reasons. Time spent by a developer, little things that you can do, programmatically that are supported by modern browsers, and even as far back as IE8. Alt text and area labels really can go a long way, especially if what you were previously doing was nothing, which, to no fault of a lot of people, it's not like they said, well, I've decided I do not want to make my software accessible because, forget those guys, right? I don't think anybody's doing that. I haven't heard anybody doing that. But the more we use these, there may be some heartburn at first, as there was with me. Either you're not interpreting how to use them correctly, or you're abusing them and they don't specifically call out, don't use it this way, it won't work. Or, as most of us know, different browsers do whatever the heck they want on any given day. But the more we churn through that, the better that will improve, and the better our experience as developers will improve in our day-to-day, as well as, and most importantly, the users of our work. The selfish reasons for programming for greater accessibility, government agencies per 508 compliance require that you meet a certain level of accessibility. If they are required, so their employees have accessibility tools, and the software that they use can be used by screen readers, can be used by braille displays, and so on. And likewise, if your place of work wants to sell something to such entities, then you need to play ball as well. So, you know, that's one way of getting your tax money back, I suppose, is programming for greater accessibility and then selling it to the feds. And it also results in just it overlaps with a lot of programming best practices, and you may get better SEO. And whether that is a thing you want, I don't know. Right, so tools that are available to users with vision loss or low vision, unfortunately, usually just for Windows, and we're talking about screen readers and such, and that's probably more a historical reason. You know, you look at market saturation of operating systems and so on, you can kind of put two and two together and figure out why most, you know, if you're wanting to make money at developing these tools, you're gonna ship first for the OS with the highest market saturation and user base. So sad face, but other OSs are catching up. Linux and Mac OS actually have some built in. They're not accommodated as well. They're a little quirky, but the big ones for Windows here are, as I mentioned earlier, NVDA. It is open source. It is free. It's both of these are configurable, and that's and usually a screen reader user will heavily modify their screen reader, and they will be like light years more proficient at navigating their OS, their applications, the internet, by just keyboard commands. So tabbing, enter, escape, and so on, arrow keys. May or may not be faster than Matthew Keeler, but I couldn't find any definitive statistics on that. So JAWS, really not free. I think a 2-year license was something on the order of $800 to $900. They actually charge more for putting a license for Windows Professional, Windows 7 Professional over Windows 7 Home, because there's a huge difference, right? And it's more popular for now. That's sort of me, you know, trying to point at the fence, all Babe Ruth style, even though I'm not going to actually hit anything. Because so far nobody's tried to stop me from showing the YouTube video. Braille displays, also expensive. I mean, kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, they look like they got a lot going on there. So that's really all I wanted to. I mean, I thought JAWS was out there. It almost feels like you get punished for needing to use your computer, and it just doesn't seem right, right? But contrary to the screen reader trends, we do have a pretty high, a pretty large list of supported devices from Apple. So good for them. I have no idea how these work. I couldn't get my hands on for obvious reasons, and we're just gonna pick our battles with this talk here. There are some mobile applications. I was clued into one called Zoom Text for the iPhone that had more to do with magnification of content. So for someone for low vision, I didn't look. There may be. I don't think there's Braille displays for mobile devices. I'm not sure how that would work in a workflow, but it'd be tough. Right?
They're Bluetooth.
Bluetooth? Crazy. I've got more Googling to do, right?
So there's no iPhone with Braille Retina display?
No, that would not. Retina display would not translate well on it. But they'd probably still try it. Oh, okay, sorry. commentary for myself. I'll keep my opinions to myself for now. Tools for users with hearing loss, right? Captioning. So the auto caption software, I keep dangling that carrot. We'll get to it. Trust me. Self-captioning service, Amara. I didn't click through to it, but it as well as Caption First. Caption First, a pretty big hitter in professional captioning service. I think one of the only names that I saw come up when searching for that. And actually, my family member, that was her place of work, right? So they're pretty active. So tools for users with color blindness. Really, this was just stuff at the top of my search results, but it was kind of interesting to play with. And I found a lot of discussion regarding this one, and people finding a lot of utility in their application here by Little Sky, Colorblind Assist, where you can it basically constantly gives you a hex code and everything else for where your mouse pointer is, and I would suppose it also, right, I forget if it gives you an alert, but for people who are trying to say be mindful of specific color codes that are problematic and pairing those two side by side with each other, if they're trying to accommodate a colorblind user, they might try that one. And I think this was for colorblind users. So if a colorblind user were navigating a page wondering what color is it that I'm looking at, this is how they get that. And a lot of them would just spit out the hex code, or it would just say green or something like that. This one stood out as one that was a more succinct, descriptive, and shot a hex code at you as well.
Serious question.
Yeah.
With normal RGB color and normal sight, one can calculate contrast as being the angle between the three-dimensional vectors. Okay. Is there any sort of calculation and/or utility to perform such that takes into account various color blindness? In other words, doesn't always say, here's what color it kind of is like seeing, but actually indicates the contrast. I don't know if it gets into that granularity, but there is, and I may end up, I don't remember if I actually put in my slides. But there, WebAIM, which provided a lot of the content of my talk here, had a tool which will give you a contrast ratio between a couple hex codes. So say if you got those hex codes using the Colorblind Assist tool or something like that, you could, it'd be a manual process here, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't find anything specific.
Also have an extension for Firefox that does the same thing.
Right. There were a lot of these sites, a lot of these resources that have a bunch of software that I did not install, I did not go over. So, what do you remember what the Firefox extension was called?
No, I don't.
Right. But there can only be so many, right? Okay.
Can I make a point about that?
Yeah.
So one thing to bear in mind with people who are color limited, typically most people are red-green color limited, which means they can't distinguish between reds and greens, but they can distinguish between, they can't distinguish the hue, but they can distinguish the luminance between those colors. So when you're looking at something like contrast, that can get you a hint. The problem is that when you're trying to match contrast between different colors, it's really, really, really reliant on the configuration of the display, which is always going to be non-perfect and ambient light. So you can use that as a hint, but I definitely wouldn't rely on contrast ratios for distinguishing anything that's remotely important.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, due to, in case that was low volume on the mic, contrast ratios due to ambient lighting and poor screen quality or display quality, or just our inability to predict that, or whatever the user might be using. Yeah, contrast ratio may not necessarily always be as useful as, say, just picking a different color, right? Okay, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what else you could use. There's a plethora of tools and resources available for low vision and blind users, and then and that kind of is dominating the majority of my talk because of that. So we're going to demo NVDA Screen Reader, and it's going to be a blast. Now, as I said, a screen reader user will absolutely be able to run a virtual machine better than me. Hey everyone. Awesome. Hey, are we back? We're back. Take that. All it took was you guys believing in me. And the power of Christmas, indeed. All right, so here is my computer, everyone. Let's make sure we're nice and loud here. Folks who may be watching, listening remote, I hope you can hear this. We're gonna find out. So you actually don't have to install it all the way. It will just kind of take off and let you try it out if you just run the installer, which was nice because I didn't, even on my VM, I did not want to install 2 screen readers if I could help it, because JAWS, like you have to reboot, and it just like it has all these registry hooks, and it's just a bear.
Desktop.
Yes.
NVDA.
Yeah.
Desktop.
I agree.
Create and continue running.
Continue running.
Continue run test. Welcome. Okay.
So.
Welcome. Close is the
Yeah.
window.
Consider what you're hearing now when you're wondering if you should accommodate people that need higher accessibility in their websites. Okay. Okay. Not touching my mouse. Honest. So. Gonna open a new tab.
New tab, Google Chrome window, Google Chrome pane,
which it's gonna tell me.
Toolbar, address and search
and it'll just kind of keep going.
Search bar,
unless you hit Control or whatever the hotkey might be. I got lucky that I guessed it. So, what do we want to find? Let's find devICT's Twitter, which I have already looked for because when I was practicing earlier. So yeah, kind of. It talks while you're typing.
Twitter, devICT, Google search, link, screen reader, access, make, Twitter / result details, Twitter / search devICT, link, heading level 3.
I have the search results for devICT. Well, that's for the hashtag. No, this could be bad.
Menu, search, more, newslet.
I'm cheating a little bit
because Twitter,
I'm going to modify my search. The low vision or blind user might have gone down that rabbit hole and regretted it and gone back to try again. Well, here's a Twitter status for tonight.
7 p.m. at Fair Level Party. http://t.co/x72yig39.
Kind of impressive.
One items link Twitter out. Search query.
But
follow Merton.
You can kind of tell why it's free.
At Fair Level Party link.
Calls out links.
www.vita.com/devICT/event.
It reads out the link that you might copy if you had right-clicked and said copy link.
Retweet button. Favorite button.
Tells you if it's a button or not.
More menu button, expanded sub-menu.
Sometimes you can't tell what it said. So that's as much as I want to do with NVDA. Pretty awesome for free, right? But Go
Does
for
the
it.
VDA give you the ability to jump through a page by heading?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact, if you press the H key, it jumps to the next heading. You can also
Yeah.
bring
Out
up
of list
the
column
dialog
to be sent
as
up
a
base.
all the headings
MICT
or
can
list
no
of all
next
things.
Okay.
You can also push like B to jump from button to button. There's hotkeys for everything.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of the pattern by which screen reader developers program. And they're like with JAWS, you can pay for, and they encourage you to pay for, training, both as someone developing for a screen reader or as a user of a screen reader. So they get you going both ways. Just because it is, and it really has to be so configurable. Otherwise, you just be sitting here, pull up a Wikipedia entry and just read and listen, have it read through and listen for, what if you want to read a footnote? Well, there goes, 40 minutes or something, right? So, right, turning off NVDA.
Noted NVDA.
Come on, guys.
Reply. Top new OK. MICT up close.
I told you to close.
Close. Running applic notification.
It still lives.
NVX. Notification.
How to computer. Okay. Now, with JAWS then. And yeah, I guess with this, I'm just wanting to emphasize or illustrate why JAWS probably is still a little more ubiquitous.
Ready. JAWS activation dialog. This application requires authorization to run on the JAWS.
Demo gets you 40 minutes before you have to restart to try it again. So if you're using it for testing, for accessibility, that's something to keep in mind.
Chrome-Google Chrome. Edit. Set up Chrome sign in to get your bookmarks, history, and settings on all your devices.
And I believe
learn more sign in link.
Quiet. I believe you said that a lot of screen reader users will have the words per minute cranked up really high.
You're at like 30%.
Right.
Speed.
Right. And I'm struggling to keep. I mean, in viewing this, like, let that be an illustration for like the determination and the and just the ninja-like abilities of someone using one of these tools to just get to your Twitter post.
Google Chrome. Address and search bar of T. There are no list items on this
Oh my
page.
gosh.
Tab plus you link.
I think my
address and search enter Google combo box to change the select.
So I think
tab,
I've made my point.
Twitter/search.
I did want to highlight one thing though.
Keyboard shortcuts are available.
The bug that I hit was what's one of the things that's kind of flashy, kind of common now. Things like Font Awesome, using fonts as icons, using non-pictures as pictures, or using things as buttons that are not buttons. If you do that, wrap it in a button element and then but configure it. If you really don't want it to look like a Windows button or a Mac button, take those steps, but add the appropriate, area label or what have you, so that when someone tabs to it tells them that it's a button.
Sign up for Twitter button.
That's obviously a button, but if it was just an X, right? You don't want it to say X. You want it to say, close window or, close dialogue or something like that. So that's really all I'm gonna, I think I've already gotten away from myself.
Menu to move to leaving menus with JAWS dialog.
Yes, let us quit. Okay, I'll leave it running, but I think that's all I'm gonna do with that. Demo JAWS, we did. Ah, yes. YouTube auto captioning. Oh, the ad. Hang on.
My plan is perfect.
Yeah, well, I don't know what that is, man. All right, subtitles, English. turn on, please. So this is Froggy Fresh. He is my favorite rapping singer.
Even if you had infinity knives, I would punch you up into the air like a kite. I bet you sleep with the night light, cause you're scared of the dark, cause you stink like a fart.
Got that part
Well,
right.
I like your fart and fire with my rounds. You think I won't? I do it all the time.
You definitely lose your message when YouTube is auto captioning you, and there are, I believe you can crowdsource, you can contribute captions, can you not? Otherwise, as the uploader of said file, you can provide captions for your content, which it would be really hypocritical of me if I didn't do that for this talk once we uploaded it. All right. So for low color color vision users, I'm just going to say my favorite game is Borderlands 2, and this is a perfect excuse to talk about that. And really, just again, serendipitously, this week, their CEO or president or whatever he is, Randy Pitchford, had retweeted a response from a gamer where he reached out and said, thank you for making colorblind mode, right? And I did not know that they did that. And so this, which I have linked, has a lot of really good resources and kind of has I really like this grid here. These are like the different rarities of the items in this game, right? With this being the highest, and they're not exactly in order, but you can see we're like here, orange and green kind of get lost. Orange was like one of the highest rarities. Green was kind of trash. You just sell it in the game. So, yeah, and then here are the three of the different kinds of color blindness. And they kind of go through a lot of the same steps I'm talking through here. What can you do? Some of the things they did. They also, in the text, called out the rarity in addition to choosing variants of a certain color that might not be as susceptible to a particular color blindness, right? So a slightly different shade of green and a slightly different shade of red, or hue, or I forget the graphic designer vocabulary for that. So that is also linked. Right, there is a Chrome plugin called Daltonize, which, if you look here, I would suppose if you are not colorblind, you can see that there are these down here which would be more susceptible to losing the distinction of the 74 and the 15. I mean, it's already really kind of tough to discern. And here's a good example of display playing a part in it too, right? Whereas on my laptop screen, it's like these numbers just disappeared on this projector, and I don't know what people out in them internets are seeing, but it can really change the experience.
What was it supposed to do?
It's supposed to, this plugin is supposed to simulate, it was supposed to simulate on this page what this might look like to someone with, I think I have it set to the red-green color blindness. And actually, if I refresh, and it doesn't toggle. You refresh to turn it off, which is something to note. Or apparently it's not going to. Let's try that again. But this one actually gives you bookmarklets. Maybe they are, they're reverted. So if you select on some of these, it kind of simulates it in this page, and I think they said you can make bookmarks from this, and it'll send it through an application that kind of, whatever web page you're on, it'll
So what we're supposed to be seeing is that those numbers should be more difficult to us to
Right.
distinguish when you click on that button. But for us,
Right.
with this projector, it's actually easier.
Yeah,
But that highlights what I was saying earlier, that it's impossible to control.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, another question.
For non-web developers who want to be able to preview, something that's a native app or something they're
Mhm.
working on, there is a tool called Color Oracle
Oh, okay.
that works on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it does previews of the most common kinds of and some rare kinds of color.
Nice.
Also.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that one. There was one of the ones that was linked to by that Borderlands article. A frequent solution is they'll say, okay, we'll take a screenshot and then upload it or run it through this. But that's it's so much more useful to be able to do it in real time, right?
Yeah, basically it takes your whole screen and does a simulation of color blindness.
Whole screen simulation.
For the kind you choose on your whole screen.
Cool.
You click the mouse button or something.
Yeah, and that's where this plugin was kind of dicey. It was like it wouldn't do some background images, some like CSS styling. It wouldn't necessarily take
It's like
care
going
of.
through the DOM tree and modifying stuff. Is that what
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think yeah. So it's kind of hit and miss. Which there are two websites that claim to be the official Christmas website, but I did want to at least do this. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's that. I wanted to do it and I did it. What can be done? What can be done? Can you tell that I do this stuff mostly just to entertain myself? I'm sorry. I am trying to help, but anyway. So regarding vision, without using, area label and those specific tools or accommodating the screen reader specifically, there's the classic, putting alt text on a picture, and really Flash can just be so awful for. I don't even know where you'd start to make Flash content accessible. Avoid improperly labeled and improperly spelled forms. There is a Squiz Code Sniffer, which is something that can be configured. It kind of pops up over your window, and it will. You can configure it in certain ways. One of which, if you go and kind of pick and choose what you want to do to comply with 508 compliance, it kind of gives you bad warning, notice tiers of messages. Just from a design standpoint, navigation, make sure you can navigate your site or your application using arrow keys, tab, enter, space, et cetera, and you don't want to get someone stuck looping through a dialogue, or if they open a dialogue and they close it, their focus just goes poof. And on the second bullet there, you want to return focus, where they were previously. If they opened up a dialogue, did whatever they needed to do, closed it, don't send them back up to the top of the page. Especially if they remember being there in the middle of the page to begin with, and the time it takes to get back to the middle of the page, depending on how well or poorly you have designed the rest of your interface.
Can I add one to that?
Yeah.
Use elements for their intended functional purpose, not for their aesthetics. So especially headings, because that is the number one way that low vision users navigate web pages is through headings. And so if you use H1 tags everywhere,
right,
or if you don't use H1 tags anywhere,
it's not just for making text big.
Right.
It's a flow of content tool as well, and that's what they develop a screen reader to follow, because there's an expectation that you followed those rules. And things like, if you want to hide something from a screen reader, and that's where, like I said, the X, you don't want it to say X, you want it to say close. Use area label to have whatever element to say close. and use area hidden on the element within so that it does not say close X, you know. They could probably figure it out, but right, yeah. Case in point, if you want to use ASCII art, do you want to tell them, I have ASCII art of exhibit on my page, or do you want it to say, you know, yo dog, whatever, and then it gets to the ASCII art and tries to read a bunch of garbage. Although I think it'll actually just skip it, so then they'll just be, if you don't intro what your content is, ASCII art, I don't know why but your message is lost, much like my message now while I keep talking. So here I have linked one particular, I personally like this. Mozilla has some documentation that's a little more friendly, but this is much more verbose, I kind of send you down the rabbit hole of specificity, which if you couldn't tell about me, I kind of like. So you can kind of jump from there to find the rest, if you so wish. Area landmarks, sort of akin to using headings. They're meant to be used in the same way. I'm not going to link through to that, but there's that. And this kind of illustrates the breadth or lack thereof of support for WAI area accessibility features. Surprisingly enough, IE8. It's good marks, I guess. I guess I have to admit it. For hearing, you can, like we were saying with YouTube, just try to be diligent about, if you have some video or have some flash content, get at least provide a text transcript that they can download and use their screen reader on. Color blindness, things that I mentioned, Don brought up as we went along, and things that we experienced just in seeing how these tools do different things depending on the display. Sometimes if your designer will let you maybe use different colors, otherwise maybe make a colorblind mode if you are allowed. I think that's it. Does anyone have anything else that they would want to ask that I could respond to later, because I might not know the answer? Go for it.
I have a question about headings. You talked about not using all level 1 headings. One of the things that I like about HTML5 is that it has a new outline approach. Instead of just going H1, H2, H3, etc., you can use sectioning content like the section tag and use an H1 there too. But if it's inside another section, it's still underneath that first H1. It's still treated like a tree, sort of.
That's application.
That's been yanked out of the specification now.
Oh, really?
Or did they put it back in?
Awesome.
Oh yeah, that sucks, but they took it out.
That's something like you just have to keep watching, right?
Yeah. So do screen readers acknowledge that new approach to outlining now? Is it safe to use all H1s if you do it that way?
I'm going to say that you should not rely on the screen readers keeping up with the standards, and you should definitely not rely on users of screen readers keeping their screen reading software up to date.
Yeah, a lot of them will, if they can make do, especially with JAWS, since it's like $900 a seat, and then for each upgrade. Then there's still, I think the like IE and old versions of IE were primarily were the highest percentage of JAWS users. I may be wrong there, but it's an artifact of the market saturation of Windows and when they started making these tools. So, but that being said, like the more people try to use them, again, like the more you try to use them, for their intended purpose, I would hope, this is me spitballing, that would drive pushback to play nice, right? And then, if JAWS wants to keep charging people $900 a seat, and if NVIDIA wants to keep stealing users from them, then hopefully that trickles down. So, yeah, I mean, most of my content, most of my reasons for doing this was more of just advocacy. I didn't do any live coding aside from the scrambling to get this done as you guys were walking in. So, it's going to be on the GitHub repo. If you think of more questions, call me out on Twitter, or you got another one.
I have to admit, I was surprised to see MSI doing so well on the ARIA tag support. It would be interesting if you published the vision impaired statistics side by side with browser market share statistics.
Right.
It seems like perhaps vision impaired accounts for a large portion.
Yeah. On the repo, there is a avalanche of links, and a lot of that content comes from WebAIM. And it seems like everywhere I looked, WebAIM's surveys that they did on screen readers, or the screen reader users, that kept getting referred to as gold dust. So definitely look up their results. I think they have some as recent as 2012, and they do. Them and W3 had some content where they do kind of put some of those side by side.
So does this mean that ARIA is now more important than wacky clear fixes?
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely trying to. They're actively pushing it and adding when appropriate new ARIA classes and so on. So yeah.
The 508 thing is really big right now.
Yeah.
I know a large company that just started a partner for that. It broadens every year. So like in the past, it's like governments had to do 508 compliance, but then it becomes government suppliers. So
Right.
It broadens. So there's money there too.
Yeah.
Maybe Microsoft, maybe it's because of the government requirements.
Right.
And after the state of Kansas was trying to have some of their internal sites more than a decade ago be a bit more accessible. Someone who was really pushing hard on that back in 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. So, yeah.
And they do keep updating what it takes to pass, right? One of the again in the avalanche of links is a resource for getting notified when there is an update to said requirements. So anyway. If you think of other things, call me out on Twitter, or go to the GitHub repo, file an issue, carrier pigeon, whatever. I'll make a revision, and thanks a lot. Yep.
I did find one. There was a website for Amara.
Yeah.
Amara.com is actually a housewares website.
Oh.
I believe for Amara.org.
.org. Awesome. So
before you upload it,
file an issue. I think that one might already be pushed in there. So GitHub issue. Okay. I've got my first one. All right.
Thanks for doing
Yep. Going to be signing off, and they will send out a new link for the next talk.